Today we have the latest in political coverage from polling day in Northeast Georgia. Looking at the passage of the brunch bill, SPLOST, and who will be the next mayor of Watkinsville, all coming up in the next 30 minutes. And an Athens resident gives back to her community with a unique type of story time.
I wanted to volunteer for anything at that point, just to give back, to do something good.
UGA awards a grant to study research on slavery.
And the goal of the grant is multifold. It is to bring together a group of faculty and students from a variety of disciplines.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady Newsource.
Good evening and welcome to Grady Newsource. I'm Wellesley Kiesel.
And I'm Bailey Walker covering weather. Coming up, I'll tell you what to expect for the remainder of the week in weather and a deep dive into the latest on the climate crisis.
And I'm Isaiah Joseph, and later I will give you the College Football Committee's newly released top 10 teams. And I'll talk with Grady Newsource reporter Katie Anderson as we break down this week's big games.
Now to our top story, the results of yesterday's elections in Northeast Georgia. We have team coverage of the highlights and expert analysis. But first, let's go to Wangeshi Waroe, who joins us with the latest numbers. Wangeshi, what do you have for us?
Clark County just voted to approve the continuation of the Special Local Option Sales Tax, or SPLOST. This means residents voted to fund an estimated $314 million worth of projects with an additional 1% sales tax. These projects include renovating the courthouse with a new judicial center and redeveloping Bethel Midtown Village, an affordable housing complex. There was some controversy among voters about whether to pass the sales tax, but this passed with almost 80% voting yes. Though it is important to note the election had a turnout of just 12.54%. Meanwhile, in Watkinsville, with just 2 votes making the difference, challenger and former state representative obtained 402 votes in the Watkinsville mayoral election, while Dave Sheeran obtained 400 votes, with 1 write-in and 1 voter abstaining. In cases like this, where the margin between candidates is close, a candidate can file for a recount within 2 days. The brunch bill, on the other hand, was not as close. The bill, which is meant to ease Georgia's restriction on alcohol sales before 12:30 p.m. on Sundays, was approved in over 20 places. In fact, only the residents in Murrow-Clayton County have rejected the bill so far. Watkinsville was one of the many cities statewide to vote yes to the brunch bill. Other election highlights include Brazelton City Council polls, where District 1 will have a runoff after Becky Richardson, the incumbent, and Richard Mayberry failed to get over 50% of the votes. Meanwhile, District 3 will be welcoming a new member to the City Council after Jim Jodak beat incumbent Tony Funari with 82% of votes. For more on Northeast Georgia's election results, check out GradyNewsSource.com or follow at Grady Newsource on social media. Wangeshi Waroe, Grady Newsource.
Now we go live with Julia Sanders on location with the latest on the mayoral Watkinsville race. Julia?
Bob Smith, the former state representative, defeated Dave Sheeran, the incumbent for Watkinsville mayor, in yesterday's election. The former state representative, Bob Smith, won by 2 votes. In yesterday's election, 804 ballots were cast, 402 votes for Bob Smith and 400 votes for Dave Sheeran. Fran Leathers, the Coney County Director of Elections and Registration, explained they will not do a recount unless the losing candidate asks for one.
The board gets together, we certify the election and post that information to the state. Once that result is posted with the state and is certified, then the losing candidate has the right to come in and request a recount from us. And so we have to have that in writing, and it has to be within 2 business days of when we certify the election.
That's all on the update on the Watkinsville mayor election. Back to you, Wellesley.
Thanks, Julia. Now we are joined with UGA political science professor Dr. Audrey Haynes. Dr. Haynes, thank you for joining us today. Now let's get into what happened in yesterday's voting day. How is SPLOST going to help Athens-Clarke County?
Well, SPLOST, like any other added tax vote, the end result is going to be a significant amount of money that over time will be put back into the city. And the good thing is it is not used to cover any of the existing operating costs. It can't be used for salaries. It has to go to specific projects. And in this case, a committee of interested citizens has had an input on what those are. So there are things that are likely to be affected that are going to be considered very valuable to the city itself.
And why did this vote in particular have such a large public approval vote?
Well, I would put that in context. Most of the SPLOST that have taken place in Athens-Clarke County have generally passed. When people see that there are areas of the city that need help, enhancement, or development, the people who are interested in that are the ones who come out to vote, especially in a very, what you might call low level knowledge kind of vote. So people who are very incentivized and care about those things turn out.
Now let's talk about the brunch bill. What are the benefits and how will this bill be implemented in the community?
So the brunch bill is interesting. You know, basically instead of limiting when alcohol is served, in the sense of it can't be served, was it prior to 12:30? Now they've moved it back to 11 a.m. So basically you can get your margarita with brunch if you want it. It does bring in more revenue for businesses. A lot of the research suggests that having alcohol sales on Sunday does not necessarily increase the amount of negative activity. So people will be making more money who have businesses that sell alcohol, and that will potentially increase some of the tax revenue that the city or county receives.
Dr. Haynes, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Coming up, we will take a look at how the University of Georgia plans to research the history of slavery on campus.
Okay, so we drowned the fire,
Yep.
stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
The University of Georgia has awarded a grant to researchers to study the history of slavery at the school from its founding in 1785 until the end of the Civil War in 1865. Reporter Jasmine Szilard has more.
Just a year ago, the University of Georgia dedicated a memorial at Baldwin Hall in tribute to remains found buried there. Yesterday, the university awarded a grant to academic researchers to study the history of slavery on the campus. Project member and researcher Barbara McCaskill explains what the project means to her and what she believes they'll find.
We can put together a wider picture of enslaved African Americans at the University of Georgia that does speak directly to the story of those bodies that were found under Baldwin Hall.
McCaskill is just one of 22 members researching the history of slavery at UGA, where they will be analyzing primary sources and archaeological data related to the history of slave labor on the campus.
We look at documentary records, court records, for example, wills, deeds, census data, those kinds of records, medical records.
Black organizations in Athens-Clarke County have called for the university to take action regarding the history of slavery at the school. Malia Cooper, a member of the National Council of Negro Women at UGA, explains why researchers should go back in history.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think as a campus, we always are appreciating and celebrating how beautiful our campus is, but I think that it's very important to go back into our history and learn about how it was built and why it is so beautiful and give homage to those who contributed to that.
Cooper says that the remains believed to be those of slaves found years ago prompted the university to invest in researching the history of their labor on the campus. Jasmine Szilard, Grady Newsource.
The academic team is made up of faculty and student researchers and is expected to be completed by June 2021.
I'm Bailey Walker, and I'll have your Northeast Georgia weather. It might be mild and sunny today, but we have cold temperatures moving in quickly. Stay tuned.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Is the seat supposed to be forward-facing or rear-facing? Did they move to a booster seat too soon? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Don't think you know. Know you know.
I'm a single mother, and I was the main one working, so I never thought that I could go back to school, you know? My sister, my mother, everybody wanted to help me with my kids. I could not have gotten my diploma without my family.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90-mile-per-hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
The weather.
I'm Bailey Walker with your Grady Newsource weather. So today in Northeast Georgia weather, we're going to be looking at your 24-hour outlook, the cold front that's going to come in tomorrow, as well as your 5-day forecast. So today you've probably been noticing some really nice temperatures with a high of around 70, a little bit of a breeze, gusts getting up to about 15 miles per hour, but generally pretty nice weather. Tonight it's going to start to cool down a little bit, a low of 47, and then you're going to see a little bit of clouds moving in, but nothing too bad. And then Thursday, that's when we're going to start having rain come in. We're going to have about a low chance of rain in the morning, and then the chance of rain is going to increase as the day goes on. The high tomorrow is going to be 67, And then moving into Thursday night, we have about a 90% chance of rain. So if you're heading out, definitely bring a rain jacket with you. The low then is going to be 46, so you can see the weather starting to get a little bit cooler. And that's because the cold front is going to be moving in. So definitely enjoy this nice weather while you can. That's going to be bringing in the rain, and it's going to be moving in on Thursday. So the rain moving in, we shouldn't see any thunderstorms or any particularly bad weather, but we will see cooler temperatures throughout the weekend starting tomorrow, starting to warm up again on Sunday. And then with your 5-day forecast here on Wednesday, again, nice temperatures, sunny, and then Thursday, your chance of rain, high of 67, low of 46. Friday and Saturday, we're starting to get really cold, high of around 58 and a low of 33. And then on Saturday, your game day weather, if you're going to the UGA game, definitely bundle up for those. And then Sunday, you have a high of 63 and a low of 41.
I'm Isaiah Joseph with sports, and coming up, we will talk the College Football Playoffs Committee's newly released rankings, and we'll also break down this weekend's top college football showdowns. All coming up after the break.
What to expect when you're expecting
Like here.
a teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to team-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys, preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey. Ready for the...
Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where do cats go on vacation? New York.
Did you know parking over tall, dry grass can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
And now I'm joined with Grady Newsource reporter Katie Anderson. And Katie, we have a top 4 matchup on our hands this weekend. We have number 3 Alabama versus number 2 LSU. And I think it's safe to say it's a pretty big game for both sides.
Yeah, this game's pretty important, especially because it's going to determine who wins the SEC West and ultimately who goes to the SEC Championship. It's also important to note that LSU's head coach Ed Ogeron has not won a game since 2016 against Nick Saban. So
That's definitely true. I think it's important to note also that LSU has beaten 3 top teams this season. They've beaten Texas, they've beaten Auburn, and they've beaten Florida. But I think their passing offense also does have an edge. They passed for 371.6 yards per game as compared to Alabama's 338. But I think it also is important to note that Alabama does have 30 less passing attempts. They do tend to pass less. But even the passing defense, I think Alabama actually has that edge. Even on defense overall, but Alabama allows 180 yards per game passing as compared to LSU's 217. So with all that said, I think it's pretty evenly matched.
Another huge factor in this game is going to be Bama's quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who actually has an ankle sprain that he suffered against Tennessee. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays on Saturday. He did practice yesterday, but Saban says it's going to be, a game time decision. But Joe Burrow, LSU's quarterback's been having a pretty good season.
Joe Burrow has definitely played phenomenal. Even if you look at his completion percentage, he completes 78.8% of passes. That's compared to Tua's 74.7 completion rate. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But overall, I think it's safe to say that whoever wins this game has a good chance of going to Atlanta and playing in the SEC championship.
Well, and speaking of that, UGA has an important game this weekend against Missouri, trying to, secure their SEC championship spot and their title in the SEC East.
For sure. Missouri, they are playing their third road game, and they have 2 SEC losses in their past 2 games, one against Kentucky, which is a 29-7 loss, and then one against Vanderbilt, which is a 21-14 loss as well. So.
Well, and UGA didn't let either of those teams even get a touchdown. But you went to Kirby Smart's press conference on Monday. What did he have to say about Missouri's defense?
Yes, Kirby said he isn't overlooking the defense. In fact, he said this is a tough matchup from their defensive perspective.
Because they're so big and physical up front. You look at historically against us, they've done a really good job. They are top probably 15 in the country in almost every defensive category.
It'll also be interesting to see if Mizzou's starting quarterback Kelly Bryant ends up playing on Saturday. He suffered a hamstring injury against Kentucky on October 26th.
Outside of football, last night was the start of men's college basketball season.
Yeah, and Georgia got their first win over Western Carolina Catamounts, 91-72.
Wow, Georgia's 5-star freshman shooting guard Anthony Edwards, he had his debut and he had a pretty big game.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 24 points in 28 minutes of playing. This is the most that a Bulldog has scored in their season opener since 2001.
Wow, that's phenomenal, and I think it's important to notice Xavier Wheeler, he had 19 points last night. Freshmen played pretty well across the board. In fact, 5 freshmen made up 59% of Georgia's scoring.
Well, and Georgia played pretty well across the board, but head coach Tom Crean said there's still work to be done.
We have so much to get more competitive at. We have so much to clean up. But the bottom line is we were able to find a way to win the game.
Well, yeah, they did indeed find a way to win, and I'm excited to see what Georgia has to offer this season. Again, thank you, Katie, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Again, I'm Isaiah Joseph, and this has been your Grady Newsource Sports.
Coming up next, a look at a new type of reading program at the Athens-Clarke County Library featuring a unique way to connect with children in a different language.
Hi, I'm Peter, and there's nothing I love more than sharing vegetables with my friends.
Come on in, help yourself to anything.
That's why we give our food the utmost respect it deserves. Did you know there are simple steps we can all take to help save food? You can cook it, store it, even share it. Just don't waste it. Because when it comes to food, better ate than never. To learn more, visit SaveTheFood.com.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Attention travelers. Next Tuesday, a major power outage will cause complete chaos throughout the city. Food, water, and phone service will be in short supply. There will likely be panic citywide. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
The Athens-Clarke County Library features a new type of reading for children once a month. Grady Newsource reporter Paige Watkins has more.
The Athens-Clarke County Library always has weekly story times, but for the first Friday of each month, Amy Azuna engages children with a new type of reading, bilingual, incorporating English and Spanish. Azuna works part-time at Plantscape Interior and is the only volunteer storyteller at the library.
I wanted to volunteer for anything at that point, just to give back, to do something good, and the library was an obvious choice to start.
She believes storytime is beneficial and sharing literature is important.
I think it's a good way to bond with your child and to teach them and show them at the same time books are great.
Azuna's cheerful smile radiates as she talks about her children's impact.
And that's one of the main motivators for doing this, because my children have a father who is from Caribbean, and they speak Spanish.
She says because she isn't a native speaker and only has some exposure to Spanish, she doesn't speak it with confidence.
It forces us to do that with our children, and I think that's important.
From nursery rhymes and music to story time and activities, she's a gift to both the community and children's librarian Evan Bush.
Amy's fantastic. She's really, really wonderful.
He says she learned a lot of the teaching patterns through being a regular storytime mom.
So she already knew the format and the structure of our story time. She knew a lot of the songs. She, didn't really need a whole lot of training.
Bush says Amy's storytime builds curiosity about other languages and serves as a welcoming place to all.
Doesn't matter what your income is, doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter what language you speak, your age, everyone is welcome at the library.
Azuna illustrates this welcoming environment through her diverse storytime. Paige Watkins, Grady Newsource.
Azuna says the library serves as a place to bring her children and feel comfortable. That's all from us here at Grady Newsource tonight, but remember, the news does not end here. For more Northeast Georgia updates, check out our website and stay connected with all of us on our social platforms. I'm Wellesley Kiesel.
I'm Isaiah Joseph.
And I'm Bailey Walker.
Thank you for joining us and have a nice night.
Of the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of Georgia, which is solely responsible for its contents. Views expressed do not represent those of the administration nor the Board of Regents at the University System of Georgia.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but one of the teachers was Miss Araceli. She gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll sit there with you until you get it. 50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Is your family in need of more quality time together?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Nature is best enjoyed together. So bring the whole family to discover all the bonding and stress-reducing benefits parks and forests have to offer. Visit discovertheforest.org and trade in phone time for family time.
Birds, squirrels, chipmunks, grass, worms, bugs, trees, rocks, and other objects in nature cannot talk. If you'd like to have a conversation while visiting nature, you will need to bring humans along. We strongly recommend starting with your family.
La 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 la, I love you so. I love you, I love you. La 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 la, la 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 la.
We're here.
Yay!
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Okay, hey, we're here. Good show today, I thought. I wasn't here right at the beginning, so I don't really know what happened then, but I'm assuming it all went okay. A lot of stuff was pre-taped today, which is always good, so I thought that went well. I thought today, thinking back, I don't know if it was last Monday or it seems like years ago, but that time when all the audio mess happened with the live shot and everything, it kind of happened again at the beginning today, but I thought everybody's communication across the board was so much better today than it was that time. Like, told Skylar, and then it got fixed. So I thought we handled that situation pretty. Today we think it was something with the TriCaster.
Well, there was something with the TriCaster too.
Was that not connected to?
It was it was just the audio board in master control was
Okay.
volume's not up. So
yes.
Restarting TriCaster help us with this, or?
It fixed two of our problems. It
That
fixed
fixed
the
the-
TV and the
there
room.
was
So we know what to do in a situation like that.
yeah,
in
there
the
was an
future.
issue with just stuff not going to program. So it just wasn't broadcasting, which is a really good thing we restarted because otherwise we would not have had a show to actually broadcast.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Today, I would say, was really smooth, especially during the pre-recording parts. Really pretty ahead of schedule. We were very flexible and moving things around and like taping things like when everyone was ready, which was great. And then, yeah, things just got a little bit hectic towards the show starting, but that's to be expected. And then I thought that communication was pretty good. When things got a little hectic, I mean, maybe a little bit more confirmation with the director would have been great because at the end, E9, like the service dog VO, like both me and the director didn't know that that was killed. So just like sometimes confirming, even though like we know that it's like sort of like a very last minute hectic situation, but had we not asked that ourselves, then we would have accidentally, ran with it. But other than that, I would say good show, and I'll give it to our director, Alex.
Yeah, it was really good. I was going to say a couple things, but you guys did a good job explaining that with restarting the TriCaster. That was something on our end at the beginning of the show. Good communication with the live shot today, with figuring out about the audio. And then DDR1, there was the dog. I was going to talk about that.
Yeah,
You
how
guys
did the doggy appear all of a sudden? I mean, he's really cute, but he really did.
Yeah,
a bit wrong
sometimes doing this for a while, the DDR1, sometimes it goes ahead and goes to the next story, or sometimes it doesn't, and we have to click through it. And today was one of them that just went ahead with the TriCaster. It's sometimes we, like because we had to turn it down, the TriCaster, we didn't know if it was going to go ahead and move, and it was just like a guessing game at that point.
Sometimes you don't know it's broke until it happens, so it's just kind of like there. But we hit the right button after it started, and it fixed it throughout the rest of the show. Though,
but
once we noticed it was not working.
But usually, usually I like to test it, but because we had to turn down the TriCaster, it's something I would have like caught on to it by clicking through the show. But because we did restart the TriCaster, and the show started immediately afterwards.
I know, I was there.
And then the commercial, we talked about it a little bit, just like having the commercial block, and then that helps with the timing for the producer. But yeah. And then also, and what you said earlier about the communication with the service dog profile VO, and if we would have had that, then we could have communicated with the anchor, like cue her in, and not like cue her in and be like, oh, like she's, like we would have, if we had known that that was dropped, then we could have cued in the anchor accordingly. Does that make sense? Because like we cued in, or for the Athens library profile lead with Wesley, she didn't know that we were going straight into her, and that's because we didn't know it was dropped. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So-
yes,
okay,
yes.
Cool.
So that was a last minute decision.
Yeah, but
which, yeah. But why couldn't, in the beginning, you couldn't talk to Wellesley, couldn't hear you in the beginning? What was that about?
Oh, the IFB. Usually, the producer goes in there and like checks the mics, and then if something goes on, they report to us, and then it's usually because the audio isn't. I'm not really sure why it
So it
wasn't
has
on.
to, we have to check that communications before the show. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it just happens with the IFBs. They're like really finicky, or sometimes, yeah, just sometimes they cut out. And yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, there was this confusion with the cameras, and I have a feeling that we need a separate script for the camera change, like to go from the wide shot of everybody saying, hello, I'm so-and-so and I'm so-and-so, and then maybe we should have had a separate lead for Wellesley who introduced our election coverage, because she was looking at the wrong camera.
Yes.
And maybe we need to kind of do this because it creates a lot of confusion. I don't know what is easier for you guys for those camera switches, so you know exactly
What is
when to take the
easiest for us is having that having anything like when to take a VO, when to switch a camera, anything like that marked in the prompter, because that is what the director is looking at in order to
like a command
switching.
in
Yes.
the prompter. It doesn't need to be a separate lead.
Not necessarily, just anything that notifies.
So what could we have done? How would we have like changed camera or camera turn or
something like that? I mean, I'm not perfectly familiar with CAN, but
but should it be in the rundown as well? Because
well, we knew that it was. I mean, in the rundown, we established that there was a camera change. It's just in the rundown, it's not shown when, obviously.
it just keeps happening, and in the beginning of the show, and I just
yeah. So if it is.
It's a mix of like when we leave the rundown meeting, making sure our camera are exactly the same, and then making sure with whoever is the one turning cameras down in the studio that it's fine. So I know last Wednesday, whenever Isaiah was anchoring, like after the meeting, he went down to practice, and then I literally walked down there and I was like, does yours match mine? And then they did, and that's how that one went well. And I know on Monday, sometimes Wellesley's were a little bit off, but I was directing, so I just knew to like follow whenever she started turning to follow. But sometimes
It's
if one or
best
the
to
other's
have
off,
it
it's hard
to have it
do
marked in the or in CAN, so that when the prompter's running, not only do we know when to turn it, but we know that it's like marked that we're turning at the same time that the anchor is turning their heads, because they can also see in the prompter when they're supposed to turn
so
as
the
well.
command saying camera turn would
Yes. Oh, I think it would
in the
benefit
script.
everyone, so that
Yeah.
it's not like an anchor is either turning their head arbitrarily or like having to like remember in their head like, oh, this word
Yeah.
is when I turn. Like they can see
you know,
it
when
in
you're
the
in a
prompter.
live show, you're not remembering. You need to have it there in front of you.
Mhm.
That's why I was asking what would work for you guys the best. So we know that, and everybody's on the same page, and we just because when you're on live show, I mean, it's a live show and it's pressure and it's a small thing to have it written down. Who taped the interview? I had a suggestion for how we should tape interviews in the studio on the set. Whoever was taping it should have told the guest to look at the anchor, because initially half the interview she was anchoring. She wasn't talking to. It wasn't an interview. The professor was looking into the camera and talking to the viewers. Instead of talking to Wellesley.
Well, to be honest, I think
She
that's
could,
more of a
glance and
producerial
stuff.
decision than
So-
our decision.
Yeah, so a producer should be there just to take a look at how the interview looks. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, Tyler was the mix.
I was there. I think
She was
what you're
directing
saying
us.
is maybe we could have had her look or
Yeah.
Yeah, because did you notice by the end of the interview, she did the right thing. Both of them were looking at each other. She was looking at the guest, and the guest was, she was glancing at the camera naturally, but most of the time she was talking to the anchor. And this is the more, the way interviews look like they're a conversation. Instead of, the guest looking into the camera and, speaking to the viewers directly. It's not an interview, then she becomes an anchor in a way, or a reporter. So that was just my happy interview was wonderful because they started doing it the right way. But this is just because we haven't done this before, so that's why I wanted to. It's still a wonderful idea. Thank you guys for making it happen. Everything was wonderful. because we did it for the first time in this way, I just thought that we would establish, you know, what looks better. And that's, it's not, I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm really happy we got this. So,
cross like
camera 1 shoot her and then camera 3 shoot like
you mean
two.
just like switch
Yeah.
back and forth between camera. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Cool.
yeah, and it's got to be a conversation. The anchor has to look at, you know, the guest has to, it's better not to read your questions from the prompter, but look at your, like you did, you looked at the prompter, but then you went and you looked at your questions, the written questions, and that reminded you what to ask her. So you kept the eye contact with her, asking her questions. So the second part was wonderful. The first one we just had to have this adjustment of, because you kept looking at her, but she was like ignoring. It looks like she's like, you know, I'm not talking to you. You know, it kind of looks awkward. So that was my only thing. And going forward, when we do this, since this was our first time, it was wonderful. I'm glad we got it. She's a wonderful speaker, and explained things. Even had at the end, she had a sense of humor, you know, about the alcohol, you know, approval of alcohol earlier, the brunch alcohol thing. So everything was wonderful. I'm just moving us further ahead, you know, making things even better. So, guys, did we do you justice today? With is it something that seems like we?
Yeah, about so.
Yeah, and thank you for all the hard work you do, and despite all the things, we're trying to restart the TriCaster 3 minutes before air and all that stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys.
I think it was a wonderful show overall. We were just discussing little things, but I really liked our show because it had a lot of different things, and even the live shot panned out. So I thought it was a very strong show. Just there were just little things that I didn't.
Just to work on.
Just, you know, what can we do on our part so that we avoid little things, you know. But it was a wonderful show, and I really thank you for keeping your cool and just going, despite, you know, the monkey wrench in the beginning. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys.
So, Skylar, from your point of view, how did the show go?
So
Yeah.
producing, there was like a learning curve for sure this week, because normally we've gotten to be on the other side throughout the whole semester. So thank you for bearing with me this whole week. Today was like up, down, mountains. We had some very low valleys. A lot of things we didn't think were going to pan out, and they ended up going, and we had to go to plan B and C and then back to A. But thank you, production, because we didn't think our live shot was going to pan out, and it ultimately did, but they did not stop until it was time for the live shot to go. They didn't call it early. They've just been very, very supportive and open-minded when it comes to being flexible about filming. That's why we were able to have a lot of the show pre-taped, which I think did help us have more of a successful, smooth show. Communication, I think it was something we could have had a little bit stronger today. I thought we might have been more clear on Monday. Since we had a lot more things change today, I think that's where some of the smaller details might have fallen through the cracks. But overall, thank you guys for being great team players. Thank you for going out and shooting. My content manager here, Jada, she went out and helped one of our reporters do an interview. We had overall great team spirit from everybody in Wangeshi. Your digital, the data visualizations and graphs, they looked so good. So
Yes.
thank you for taking time to make it very digestible and easy to understand. So overall, I think we tried some new things today. Sports, wow. Katie,
Yes. What great
Isaiah.
chemistry between the two of you. And it was wonderful. It really was wonderful. And you were just natural. You could, because you know your stuff, you enjoyed it. The two of you have great chemistry. Excellent, I would say. Absolutely excellent. And keep working on it. For next week, we can go a little longer. The only thing that happened and it wasn't anybody's fault because we ended up floating your sports roundup before that. It was a little bit awkward for you to say, I'm now joined by Katie, because you hadn't joined us by yourself as a sports anchor, because we cut what you had to say. That was the only thing that but it wasn't.
Well, and something when I was watching it that I would love for us to like work on is just the way that we were standing. It was just kind of hard because we wanted to have the TV in the back or in the middle of us, but he was too tall, and then it didn't work, and then he got cut off, and so it was just kind of like I was standing on a block for all of that. I just thought
Really?
I looked really little. But maybe figuring out like a different set, maybe sitting down somewhere or like at a desk might look more natural, because it was kind of like we were awkwardly like right next to each other. But I think that was just like something we could work with in the future if we end up doing something like that again.
I kind of like the standing thing,
I like the
but
standing.
I want to see you sitting as well, and then we can compare and see what
I definitely
works
liked
best.
the standing because we could talk more and you could, but I didn't, I think it would have worked better if we weren't like standing next to each other, because I felt like it looked weird because I was just like looking at him and not like across of a thing.
I like
You
the
liked it?
way,
Okay.
yes, because you were very naturally paying attention, and to what he was saying. I would have suggested in the beginning, you kind of were looking a little bit too much at the camera and less at her, and then you got back into looking more at her and talking to her, because it's a conversation between the two of you. So yes, you glance at the camera, but mostly you look at each other, and are talking to each other. It was just wonderful, and I would like for you to keep experimenting, because we might find a better format or something. But this was it was lovely. All of us enjoyed it. It was
You guys had great chemistry.
wonderful.
Brittany, before she left, she also mentioned the set, because it was kind of awkward. Like half of the TV was cut off.
Yeah.
And then I think also just like body language wise, you guys were both straight on. So like for more of the conversational, you could have been more catty corner, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, just you could play with the smart board and where to place it.
We talked about doing the smart board instead, but because his reader was in front of the virtual set, we were like, oh, we'll just stay there so it looks like I just joined him. But then we probably could have done something different. But I mean, if we do it again, we can definitely switch it up and experiment. So.
Yeah. So, looking ahead, what can we do? What did we like this week? We want to continue doing, and what could we do better?
So I think it was great that we had this mindset of innovation. But I think like moving forward, we need to kind of fine tune delegation of roles and time, because Katie, it was great that you got to do sports, but then halfway through the day we were looking, we're like, well, we're down a person to go and have more of a hard news story. So one thing I was suggesting was maybe have the 4 delegated hard news TV MMJs just for that, because we really wanted political coverage today, and we were really struggling to kind of get that extra push there and support we needed. So my suggestion was to have, if we want to have this team double up tag team initiative and effort, I think it might be best to pull a person from digital that can offer that extra support, and it shouldn't be 2 TV MOJs delegating to one topic, because then we get our diversity and resources are kind of, we get to a part in the day and we're shorthanded. But it was great, and I really loved y'all's initiative. It's just, it kind of hurt us later in the afternoon, but we pivoted and we got through it.
Well, we also were helped by Wangeshi.
Yes.
And who else helped us from digital today? Paige. Yeah.
Paige, yes.
So we got help,
Mhm.
and I love the fact that we collaborate. But I agree with you. We really have to be focused on having TV. I can approve 2 digital articles a day, so when we have 2 digital people, if we're short on TV, we can spare
Pull
one.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think it's because when we had done the entertainment thing, they had been TV, and so they made basically like, weren't you TV when you did?
Yeah, we were both
Yeah.
TV, so we put our 2 1:30 topics together and made like a 3.
Yeah, so I think when Isaiah and I came in this morning, we were saying 5 minutes. We were thinking the normal sports plus my package.
Mhm.
And so I think that was part of it, was I was thinking timing-wise, that's why it would be longer. But I understand what you're saying. You want more of like the news versus just being sports. But I think that was the my
Gotta come up with the
misunderstanding.
perfect balance.
Yeah, because
So I
when you
think that's
guys
my
talked to me on
understanding of what it's
Monday,
gonna be.
I thought you were talking about next week.
Yeah.
And I didn't, but I saw how excited both of you were and that you'd worked so hard and said, no,
We
I
have to go."
can't, I can't say no. And and I'm so glad I didn't. I mean, it really added a lot to our show. So it was wonderful and looking forward to your further ideas. And it was a nice conversation, and also I like the variety of elements you had, visual elements. You had the soundbite with the coach, and it worked very well. I'm really happy with your profile piece. Was very nice. Thank you for helping us with that and doing work on your other digital stuff and helping us. Wangeshi, very natural. I really enjoyed the smartboard. Came through very nicely because you were ad-libbing and you understood the story, and you really broke it down. It's a very complex summary of, you know, all sorts of elections and referendums and stuff like that. Came together very well, and your graphics were wonderful. And we thank you for doing this. So this was extra pressure on you to help us out, but I think it added a lot to our election coverage. So we were able to thank you for that. Well done, very well done.
And Jazz, your story was really great today too. It had some really great perspectives and B-roll. It was shot really well.
That is her strength. She's really good at those social impact, social issues, stories, because I see how she has a passion for them, and you can always tell. And she had two great ideas. The one on the first-timers, the first-time students as well, and she's going to share it with tomorrow's team. But it was wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Well, so you did really great today with writing readers. Thank you. Then I wanted to highlight Bailey. We had an issue with time. Just a note for also the Tuesday, Thursday class. I think the script we are duplicating. We had this issue on Monday, and I heard from Bailey, you guys had it yesterday. We are missing a block in between weather and sports for a commercial. And so it threw off our timing, and so we had to, it put us way over, so we ended up having to drop. But Bailey had a really great
Could we run
climate.
it another time, that climate thing?
I think next week.
Yeah, we could run it. It'll have to be Monday because it'll get too old. The report will. But we could do it Monday because we're struggling next week, so we need content.
Or even on social, I think it could live there.
Yeah.
It was a really great piece.
Yes. Julia, thank you for, I don't know how it came through, but the live shot came through. We couldn't hear you till the last moment. But again, I just want to remind everyone that having a profile piece is not enough. You have to come prepared for the day to do a story, because the profile piece is ready, it's in the can, so to speak, literally. And so we need to have both. Every time you have a profile piece and you think it's going to run, you need to have a separate idea, which is feasible, which you worked on, you've arranged your interviews. We need a lot of preparation. Julia, your producer next week, is going to be very challenging for you. So start thinking about how you can fill the show and innovate with half your reporters on board. Think about these things and put out the template early so people start filling it out and strategizing. We can't be doing evergreen stories. You guys need to connect as early as tomorrow. Today is too late, but tomorrow all of you need to connect with your beats and find out news. It's very important to do that. And each and every one of you, think of something you haven't tried before that you want to try before you graduate, and try to do it next week. Let's kind of go crazy on all sorts of different innovations and formats. We need more content, and we need to find a way to innovate, whether it's Q&A, like, you know, we have the sports and the entertainment, or it's something else that you want to try, a different kind of coverage, something we haven't tried before. And Julia, think also about things as a producer that you could try differently. So yeah.
I think it was something we struggled with from the get-go today about really being up to date on our beats and having the established story ideas and interviews set up. Sometimes things do fall through, but coming in with that established forethought is very important. And then also, we're like over almost halfway through the semester, and if you guys are still having issues with running the cameras or have questions about tripods or like anything editing, at this point it should be starting to get muscle memory. But if you need help, no question is like silly. Please like ask us. Let's not just go through and like pretend we know what we're doing. If you have a question and it's serious, we're all here to grow as a team. So please ask. We're all friends. Ask somebody, and we will help you.
This is your place to
yeah,
learn.
this is
So
where
never be ashamed or embarrassed that you don't know. You need to fill in those little gaps you have in your knowledge, and each one of you, I'm sure, can identify a gap that they want to work on. And so there are no silly questions. There's never be embarrassed. You've just got a month more to learn and to kind of get a full package of skills that you need to have under your belt in a safe place like this, so that when you go in the big world, it's scary out there. So the more you feel comfortable with the things you need to know, the better it is. So take this time. I really encourage you to take this time to try things you haven't tried, to learn things that you still feel uneasy about, because it'll be hard after that.
The JVC cameras, they might be seem big and daunting, but after you spend a little time with them, they really do make your overall product look a lot better. So please don't be afraid to check those out.
And there's one thing that I'm really concerned about, because I'm still seeing people copy-pasting from press releases, and that's not okay. Even if you change a word here and there, I told you about patch writing, for example. It's not quite plagiarism, but it's still not an ethical thing to do. And I'm looking at you, but that doesn't mean it's you. I've noticed it. I keep noticing, and that kind of concerns me that you're not getting the message. I see sentences that almost look alike from the source I'm reading and trying to fact check. I see exactly, almost word for word what the source says, and that is not okay. So let's stop this, because it keeps cropping up, and it's a bad habit. It shouldn't be at this point when you have just 1 month before graduation. This is really unacceptable. It really bothers me, and I really hope that today was the last time I saw something like that. And I'm not particularly looking at anyone. I don't want to embarrass anyone, but we need to really. It's just not acceptable. We've got 1 month and enough time to be able. You guys have made so much progress on writing. I'm so proud of you. You don't need to do the copy paste, because you've become very strong writers. I see a lot of storytelling continuity, transitions that you make. Now you understand how to introduce a soundbite, that it needs to give the gist of what the person is going to say, not just say somebody is said that someone is a nice person, or said that this is important. That's not enough for us to introduce a soundbite with. So just use those skills, because I know you have them, and you don't need to be copy-pasting other people's words. That's, again, as you can tell, I'm pretty much concerned about next week, but knowing you guys, I know you're going to come through with some nice things some special things we can try. And I'm excited and a little nervous about next week. Let me see if I have any other, touch base with your beats. I sound like a broken record, but I really mean it. And that's all I have. I really want to give you a chance to say something that we did well this week, something that you think we should work on. Any thoughts from you? We haven't heard from you. We keep talking to you, but we haven't heard from you.
But I was able to do a Q&A with Wellesley about this big new climate report that came out, and stunk that it got cut, but that is okay. But I would like to encourage whoever's weather in the weeks moving forward to kind of focus on climate while you're doing weather, because we all know you get done with weather at the beginning of the day.
Not to put a rein on that topic, but we're done.
That was so good.
That was cute. Well done, Will.